Introduction. According to Nuremberg, translating procedure is operational. It begins with choosing a method of approach. Secondly, translate with the 4 levels in mind. First, the short language text level, the level of language. Second, the referential level, the level of objects and events. Third, the cohesive level. This level is more general and grammatical. Fourth, the level of naturalness, of a common language appropriate to the writer or the speaker in certain situation. Finally, there is a revision procedure, which may be focused or staggered according to the situation or context. Pengantar. Menurut Nuremberg, prosedur penerjemahan disebut beroperasi. Ini dimulai dengan memilih metode pendekatan. Kedua, terjemahkan dengan memikirkan di 4 tingkat. 1. Tingkat teks bahasa sumber, tingkat bahasa. 2. Tingkat referensial, tingkat objek dan peristiwa. 3. Tingkat keterpaduan, tingkat ini lebih umum dan tata bahasa. 4. Tingkat kealamian, bahasa umum yang sesuai untuk penulis atau penutur dalam situasi tertentu. Terakhir, ada prosedur revisi yang dapat difokuskan atau diubah-ubah sesuai dengan situasi atau konteks. The relation of translating to translation theory. The purpose of this theory of translating is to be of service to the translator. It is designed to be a continuous link between translation theory and practice. A method of translation must be natural. If one accepts this theory of translating, there is no gap between translation theory and practice. The theory of translating is based via the level of naturalness on a theory of translation. Hubungan terjemahan dengan teori terjemahan. Jadi, tujuan dari teori penerjemahan ini adalah untuk melayani penerjemah. Ini dirancang untuk menjadi penghubung berkelanjutan antara teori dan praktik penerjemahan. Jika seseorang menerima teori penerjemahan ini, tidak ada celah antara teori dan praktik penerjemahan. Teori penerjemahan didasarkan melalui tingkat kealamian pada teori terjemahan. The approach. There are 2 approaches to translating. First, you start translating sentences by sentences. First, the first paragraph or chapter to get the sense of the text, the feeling tone, and then you deliberately sit back, review the possession, and read the rest of the short language text. Second, you read the whole text 2 or 3 times and find the intention, register, tone, mark the difficult words and passages, and start translating only when you have taken your bearings. You may think the first method more suitable for a literary and the second for a technical or institutional text. The danger of the first method is that it may leave you with too much revision to do on the early part, and is therefore time wasting. The second method, usually preferable, can be mechanical. A translation text analysis is useful as a point of reference, but it ought not inhibit the free play of your intuition. Alternatively, you may prefer the first approach for a relatively easy text, the second for a difficult one. Pendekatan. Sebagai penerjemah, kita harus memahami sesuatu dan menjelaskannya dengan sangat jelas. Dalam terjemahan tidak ada yang murni, objektif atau subjektif. Tidak aturan yang beratur, semuanya lebih atau kurang, dan tidak ada yang nyata. Terdapat 2 pendekatan untuk menerjemahkan. Yang pertama, kita mulai menerjemahkan kalimat demi kalimat, mengucapkan paragraf atau bab pertama untuk memahami isi teks, nada perasaan, dan kemudian meninjau kembali posisi dan membaca sisa teks dari bahasa sumber. Yang kedua, kita membaca keseluruhan teks 2 atau 3 kali dan menemukan maksudnya, mendaftar nada, menandai kata-kata dan bagian yang sulit, dan mulai menerjemahkannya. Kita mungkin berpikir metode pertama lebih cocok untuk sastra dan yang kedua untuk teks teknis atau kelembagaan. Namun, ada bahaya dari metode pertama, yaitu metode ini mungkin membuat kita terlalu banyak revisi yang harus dilakukan di bagian awal. Oleh karena itu, akan membuang-buang waktu. Metode kedua biasanya lebih disukai karena bisa secara mekanis. Analisis teks terjemahan berguna sebagai titik referensi, tetapi tidak menghalangi kita untuk bebas berintuisi. Atau kita mungkin lebih suka pendekatan pertama untuk teks yang relatif mudah dan yang kedua untuk yang lebih sulit. The textual level. The best level when you translate is the text. This is the level of the literal translation of the search language into the target language. The level of the translationist you have to eliminate, but it also acts as a corrective or paraphrase and pardon of synonyms. Basically, you transport the search language grammar, clauses, and groups into the ready target language equivalents, and you translate the lexical units into the sense that appear immediately appropriate in the context of the sentence. Tingkat tekstual. Jadi, pada tingkat dasar saat menerjemahkan adalah teks. Ini adalah tingkat terjemahan literal dari bahasa sumber ke dalam bahasa target. Tingkat terjemahan yang harus dihilangkan, tetapi juga berfungsi sebagai korektif atau parafrase dan pengurai sinonim. Pada dasarnya, mengubah tata bahasa sumber, klausa, dan grup menjadi padanan bahasa target yang siap, dan menerjemahkan unit leksikal ke dalam pengertian yang muncul tepat sesuai konteks kalimat.
The referential level. At this level, you have to make up your mind and summarily and continuously ask yourself, what is it about? What is an aid of? What the writer's peculiar slant on it is. Always, you have to be able to summarize in crude lay terms, to simplify at the risk of oversimplification, to pierce the jargon, to penetrate the fog of words. Thus, your translation is some hint of a compromise between the text and the facts. You have to supplement the linguistic level, the text level with the referential level, the factual level with the necessary additional information, no more from this level of reality, the facts of the matter. The referential level, where you mentally sort out the text, is built off of based on the clarification of all linguistic difficulties and, where appropriate, supplementary information from the encyclopedia, my symbol for any work of reference or textbook. You build up the referential picture in your mind when you translate the search language into the target language text, and being a professional, you are responsible for the truth of this picture. Tingkat referensial. Seorang penerjemah memperhatikan istilah dalam teks, kemudian mencari acuan sumber referensi sesuai dengan istilah teks itu. Ketika menemukan ambiguitas atau ungkapan yang terasa asing, penerjemah tidak hanya membutuhkan kamus bahasa, bahkan bisa juga ensiklopedia hingga pencarian di internet. The cohesive level. The cohesive level follows both the structure and the moods of the text. The structure through the connective words, conjunctions, enumerations, reiterations, definite article, general words, referential synonyms, punctuation marks. Linking the sentences, usually proceeding from known information, theme the new information, rhyme. Thus, the structure follows the train of thoughts. It involves that there is a sequence of time, space, and logic in the text. The second factor in the cohesive level is the mood. Again, this can be shown as a dialectical factor moving between positive and negative, emotive and neutral. This level attempts to follow thought through the connectives and feeling tone, and the emotion through value-laden or value-free expression. is admittedly only tentative, but it may determine the difference between a humdrum or misleading translation and a good tone. This cohesive level is a regulator. It secures coherence, it adjusts emphasis. Pada tingkat kohesif, terdapat dua faktor yang perlu ditinjau, struktur dan suasana hati atau mood. Pertama, seorang penerjemah meninjau kata atau kalimat pada teks setelah diterjemahkan, memperhatikan kata penghubung atau konjungsi. Kedua, bergantung pada suasana hati penerjemah yang berhubungan dengan perasaan dan emosi. The level of naturalness. In translating any type of text, you have to sense naturalness, usually for the purpose of reproducing, sometimes for the purpose of deviating from naturalness. You have to bear in mind that the level of naturalness of natural usage is grammatical as well as lexical, and through appropriate sentence connectives may extend to the entire text. Naturalness is easily defined as not so easy to be concrete about. Natural usage comprises a variety of idioms or styles or registers determined primarily by the setting of the text. For example, where it is typically published or found, secondarily by the author, topic, and readership, all of whom are usually dependent of the setting. Natural usage then must be distinguished from ordinary language. You have to pay special attention to word order, common structure, cognate words, the appropriateness of gerunds, infinitives, verb nouns, lexis, other obvious areas of interference. Naturalness is not something that you wait to acquire by instinct. You work towards it by small progressive stage, working from the most common to the less common features. Like anything else, rationally, even if you never quite attain it. There is no universal naturalness. Naturalness depends on the relationship between the writer, the readership, and the topic or situation. Kemudian pada tingkat terakhir yaitu tingkat kealamiahan atau kewajaran, penerjemah harus meyakinkan hasil terjemahannya masuk akal, terlihat alamiah seperti bukan hasil terjemahan. Artinya, teks harus dengan bahasa yang wajar, tata bahasa yang tidak kaku dan pastinya mudah dimengerti dan diterima oleh pembaca. Combining the four levels. To sum up the process of translating, Newmark suggests to keep in parallel the four levels: the textual, the referential, the cohesive, the natural. They are distinct from but frequently impinge on maybe in the conflict with each other. Your first and last level is the text, then you have to continually bear in mind the level of reality, which may be simulated, for example, imagined as well as real. But you let it filter into the text only when this is necessary to complete or secure the readership's understanding of the text, and then normally only within informative and vocative text. As regards the level of naturalness, you translate informative and vocative text on this level irrespective of the naturalness of the original, bearing in mind that naturalness is, say, formal text is quite different from naturalness in colloquial text. For the expressive and authoritative text, however, you keep to a linguistically or stylistically innovate. You should aim at a corresponding degree of innovation, representing the degree of deviations from naturalness. In your translation, ironically, even when translating this innovative text, their natural level remains as a point of reference. Saat menerjemahkan teks, keempat tingkat tersebut seharusnya dipadukan karena penerjemahan merupakan suatu diskusi dengan diri sendiri. Meskipun mereka berbeda, tetapi sering berhubungan dan mungkin bertentangan satu sama lain.
The next topic is about the unit of translating. Normally, the translation of sentences is done sentence by sentence, not bread group by bread group, running the risk of not paying enough attention to the sentence joins. If the translation of sentence has no problem, it is based firmly on literal translation plus virtually automatic and spontaneous transposition and shifts, changes in word order, etc. The first sign of translation problem is where there's automatic procedures from language to language, apparently without intercession of thought are not adequate. Then comes the struggle between the words in the SL. It may be a referential, cultural, or ideological problem. Your problem is normally how to make sense of difficult sentence. Usually, you only have trouble with grammar in a long complicated sentence, often weighed down by a series of word groups depending on verb nouns. Other difficulties with grammar are usually due to the use of archaic, little used, ambiguously placed or faulty structures. You should bear in mind, however, that if long sentences and complicated structures are an essential part of the text and are characteristic of the author rather than of the norms of the source language, you should reproduce a corresponding deviation from the target language norms in your own version. Biasanya kita menerjemahkan itu kalimat demi kalimat. Yang menjalankan risiko tidak cukup memperhatikan penggabungan kalimat. Jika terjemahan dari sebuah kalimat tidak memiliki masalah, terjemahan tersebut didasarkan dengan kuat pada terjemahan literal, ditambah dengan transisi dan pergeseran yang hampir otomatis dan spontan, perubahan urutan kata, dan lain-lain. Masalahnya muncul saat kita bertanya-tanya bagaimana memahami kalimat yang sulit. Biasanya kita hanya mengalami kesulitan dengan tata bahasa dalam kalimat panjang yang susah, yang rumit. Seringkali kita hanya terbebani oleh serangkaian kelompok kata yang bergantung pada kata kerja kata benda. The translation of lexis. The chief difficulties in translating are lexical, not grammatical, i.e. words, collocations, and fixed phrases or idioms that include neologism and unfindable words. Difficulties with words are of two kinds. A. You do not understand them. B. You find them hard to translate. Many common nouns have four types of meaning: physical or material, figurative, technical, and colloquial. The colloquial meanings are tied to collocations or fixed phrases. The technical meanings are often the worst translation traps. The most nouns, verbs, or adjectives can be used figuratively and therefore can have figurative meanings. The more common the word, the more contagious and accessible the figurative meaning. Other possible solutions to the word problem are that the word may have an archaic or original sense, may be used ironically or in a sense peculiar or private to the writer, or it may be misprinted. Another general point about translating is that in principle, since corresponding SL and TL words do not usually have precisely the same semantic range, though many do in cognate languages. Kesulitan utama dalam menerjemahkan adalah leksikal, bukan gramatikal, yaitu words, kata-kata, frasa, atau idiom tetap. Kesulitan dari words ada dua jenis. Anda tidak memahaminya dan Anda merasa sulit untuk menerjemahkannya. Di sini, kata benda memiliki 4 jenis arti. Yang pertama, physical or material, fisik atau materi. Yang kedua ada figuratif, figuratif. Yang ketiga, technical, teknis. Dan yang terakhir ada colloquial atau bahasa sehari-hari. The translation of proper names. You have to look up all proper names you don't know. First, geographical terms. In a modern text, Beijing is no longer Peking, nor is Karl Marxstadt now Chemnitz, nor is Mutare, Zimbabwe, any longer Amtali. And in 1997, Hong Kong will be Shangang. Be particularly careful of proper names in medical texts. Drug in one country will be marketed under another brand name in another, or it may merely be a chemical formula such as aspirin. Tests, symptoms, disease, syndromes, parts of the body are named after one scientist in one language community and a different one, or are given a more general terms in another. Check the spelling of all proper names. This is where misprints are most common. Kita harus mencari semua proper name atau nama yang benar yang tidak kita ketahui. Pertama, istilah geografis. Di sini contohnya, dalam teks modern, Beijing bukan lagi Peking, dan sebagainya. Berhati-hati juga dengan proper name dalam teks medis. Periksa ejaan semua nama yang tepat. Disinilah kesalahan cetak paling sering terjadi. The last topic is revision. During the final revision stage of translating, you constantly try to pare down your version in the interest of elegance and force. At the same time, allowing some redundancy to facilitate reading and ensuring that no substantial sense component is lost. You are trying to get rid of paraphrase without impairing your text, the reality behind the text or the manner of writing you have preferred. The virtue of concision is its packed meaning and the punch it carries. In communicative translation, you have to use a language that comes naturally to you, whilst in semantic translation, you have to empathize with the author. The more you feel with the author, the better you are likely to translate. If you dislike literary text, better not translate it at all. Be accurate. You have no license to change words that have plain one-to-one translation just because you think they sound better than the original, though there is nothing wrong with it, or because you like synonyms, because you think you ought to change them to show how resourceful you are. Mind particularly your descriptive words, adjectives, adverbs, nouns, and verbs of quality. Selama tahap revisi akhir penerjemahan, kita terus-menerus mencoba mengurangi versi kita demi keanggunan dan gaya. Pada saat yang sama, memungkinkan beberapa redundansi untuk memfasilitasi pembacaan dan memastikan bahwa tidak ada komponen arti penting yang hilang. Penerjemah juga harus selalu berusaha akurat. Mereka tidak memiliki izin untuk mengubah kata-kata yang memiliki terjemahan satu ke satu hanya karena menurut mereka kata-kata itu terdengar lebih baik daripada aslinya. Fakta bahwa sebagai penerjemah kita mengalami begitu banyak tekanan bukanlah alasan untuk ketidaktepatan. Revisi juga merupakan teknik yang kita peroleh dengan berlatih.